Hello, everybody. It's that time again. We have the Miss Universe pageant tomorrow night. I think it starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, but I'll have to double check that. So, I have watched this week the National Costume Contest on Thursday night, and then last night about the 2 hour or so preliminary contest. So, as I'm sure you know, the preliminary contest determines who will be the top, in this case, 21 contestants to move forward in the pageant tomorrow night. So, yes, they are having 21. I'm not sure why 21, but that's okay because it makes it easier for me to pick who I want to be in that 21 versus 20 or 15 or whatever, 16. So, today I'm going to go over my picks for the top 21. As you may remember, I don't actually try to pick a winner right now because it depends how they do in the pageant tomorrow night. I think that's just going by a lot of things you've seen so far, and that's fine when people do that. But the pageant really makes a difference that night how they do. I mean, things can go wrong, the answers that they give, etc. So, also this year, they're not doing the regional, like five from this group, five from this group, six from this group, whatever it was. Um, like the Americas, Asia and Africa. I never liked that. I'm so glad they're not doing that this year. I think that is just not the way to judge a pageant. What they should do is that in this case, the top 21 women, no matter what region they're from, should go forward. So don't limit it to five or six per group. I'm totally against that. It's worked out, and what happens is the strongest girls move forward anyway in the like the top 10, but still, it's just to me some spots are wasted by people who honestly do not have a chance when they do it like that. So I'm glad they're not doing this year. So let's go on to some of my choices. Now, what I did is, as usual, when I watch the preliminary pageant, I score each person in each of the two contests. So, for instance, here's Armenia and swimsuit, and then evening gown. And I do it on a scale of 1 to 5. Sometimes I do give halves, like a 4.5 or a 3.5, something like that, and then they get a total score. So I've done that for every contestant. Now, something odd happened last night, and that is that they put at the beginning of the swimsuit contest, they put Miss Israel first. I have no idea why, and I thought they were therefore mixing the whole thing up, and I was not happy. But actually, they didn't. They did Miss Israel, and then they went in order. So does anybody know why that happened? And then for evening gown, either I missed Israel or she wasn't in it. So that's the only person I was unable to score. As you can see here, she has no score and no total. So I didn't think she's a very strong candidate anyway, but it's odd. I don't know what happened. I've never seen that happen, I don't think. So anyway, for those who did compete, now I had a list of people from all my viewing and research before the preliminaries, and as you can see, some are crossed out now that I've changed my mind on that they won't be. So what I'm trying to do here is put people that I think are strong on this list, and it's not usually on a piece of paper like this, but this time it was. And then through the preliminary and other things I see, come up with, in this case, the top 21. So I'm going to start with the people who got perfect 10s in my 2 rounds of competition. So obviously those people, and there are 16 of them, made it into the top 21. And then I've got actually 4 people who got a total of 9.5, and they also made it in. So that's 20. So then from the people who got 9 total, which was, it looks like 7, I need to pick 1. And that was really difficult. That's where it gets really difficult. So actually, let me start there. So I want to talk about the 7 contestants that had a score of a 9, which is pretty darn good. So they're strong, strong candidates, and they have a chance to get in, but I'm not putting all of them in at this point. So we've got Dominican Republic, who I thought did very well. And actually, just to tell you, she is going to be in my top 21. So again, a hard decision, but I'm picking her above these others. The others were Vietnam, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Iceland, Japan, Norway, and Uruguay. So Norway and Uruguay, I definitely would not put in. I think they're strong, but I don't think they have the as much potential. Whereas Vietnam and Iceland and Japan, maybe I was really surprised by the way. Japan is very unusual and unique this year in that she's biracial. She's part Japanese and part black, so very interesting and a beautiful combination in this case. So I really liked her. And then, like I said, Dominican Republic, therefore, is my choice from that group. So Dominican Republic would be sort of on the bubble, maybe that number 21. Although, once you get into the top 21, I need to stress that anything can happen and that person can move up rapidly depending on how well they do. She's really strong, Dominican Republic, so she could make it into the top 10. We'll see. Now, moving on to those who I gave a 9.5 to. These are 4 women that did very well, but just were, not quite at the 10 for me. So let's start with Cambodia. It's rare that Cambodia makes it into the top 15, 16, 20, in this case 21. But I think this year's Miss Cambodia is very strong. And so I am putting her in my top 21. Again, I would put her towards the bottom. She could even be in that 21st spot, but she is in the group. And then we have Cameroon. Now, Cameroon has done very well. The national costume, I really loved her national costume. It was one of my 2 favorites. The other one, by the way, was Cayman Islands, who's not in this list, but I don't think. Let me just double check. Yeah, no. So, but Cayman Islands, and I'm not seeing Cayman Islands on a lot of people's favorites from the National Costume Contest, but she was my favorite, actually. And Cameroon, I would say, was right up there with her, so maybe second. The other 2 ladies that are in the 9.5s, that might surprise some people, and again, that means they have all the potential to get into the top 10, is India and Mexico. Now, why is India in that group and not in the group of 10s? Here's why, because I don't think she's projecting a lot of energy. She's just not giving that oomph. And I think she needs to step it up for the actual pageant. But I think she'll make it in. She's strong. I wasn't very impressed with her national costume. Now, obviously, a sari is a national costume that they wear in India quite a bit. But that's very, very ordinary and typical. And to me, you should try to make the costume something that's not ordinary and typical. Now, it doesn't have to be a Macy's float. I'm not saying that. But it just, India's was not that impressive to me. And also, you could not see her hair at all. I think that took away from it as well. Now, maybe that's the custom. I'm not sure. But from what I've seen on other people and even dolls, that's not what I'm used to. The last one is Mexico. And this is the one I think is closest to being a 10. So Mexico would either be a 9.5 or a 10. But what happened is, and let me look at my notes, I just thought she did really well in the swimsuit, but it was in the evening gown that she fell slightly short, and that's why she didn't get a 10. But she's still very strong. I really like Miss Mexico. So we'll see what happens in the pageant. And then we move on to the other 15 women, or 16, sorry. 16 women who all got 10s. Now, what I'm going to try to do is split this group up into sections, like and I do want to say who I think my top 5 are at the end. So let's start with Miss Great Britain. So Great Britain was originally not in my top 21, but the more I saw of her, she's doing really well. She's also happens to be a black woman, and I think that she's just got a lot of great qualities. She's presenting herself very well, and she knows how to strut her stuff. So Great Britain is definitely in there, but I would say in the lower part of my 16 that are left. And then we come to, let's see, Bahamas. Miss Bahamas is definitely, on the lower end of the scale. But she's also doing very well, and I've been amazed at how well she did in swimsuit. Again, these are people who got fives in both in my scoring. And, I wasn't expecting that with Miss Bahamas. She was not on my original list. So she got added. In fact, there are three here that got added, and that's Bahamas, one more I'm still going to talk about, and Nicaragua, who was on the list of people who got nines. Nicaragua also had a great national costume, by the way. Okay, so moving on, I would say the next person on this list is Albania. Now, she was not on my list. That's the next one that was added at the end. Um, she got both fives. I mean, I was actually, really surprised at how wonderful I thought she did in the preliminaries. Now, who knows? She may not do so well in the actual pageant. We'll see. But you've got to do well in the preliminaries to even have a chance to get to the other part for the finals on Sunday. So she got that far in my book. And we'll see what the judges think. Obviously, there's always some that I think should be in there that they don't agree, and vice versa. And that's how it works because we all have different opinions. Then we come to, let's see, Miss Jamaica. Miss Jamaica is doing very well. She's just stunning. I think she was on my list to start with, and I agreed. I kept her on there. So yeah, Miss Jamaica is really doing a good job. Both evening gown and swimsuit, she was wonderful. Let's move on to Miss Canada. Now, Miss Canada is very different this year. She is originally from Africa, I believe, and I can't remember which country, but she moved to Canada as a child, I believe, and she's just a little bit like the current reigning queen for Miss Universe as far as very short hair, but hers is even shorter. She is a black woman, being from Africa. Not that there aren't women who are white from Africa, but she is a black woman, and very dark skin and just beautiful. And what I like most about Miss Canada, and I kind of think she could be in the top five, by the way. But Miss Canada is just so confident, but not cocky. And then also regal. When I say Miss Canada, that's the word that comes to mind is regal and beautiful. And her costume was very simple for the national costume contest, but it was like a superhero, and it was all mostly white on her very dark skin. It just looked amazing. So Canada is definitely in my top 10, and I would say very likely to make the top 5, depending on how she does. Now, I think what they're going to do is they're going to do swimsuit with the top 21, then cut it down to 10 is what I've heard, and do evening gown, and then they're going to cut down from there to do the questions. And it's not for sure if they're doing 1 or 2 questions. I haven't heard for sure. So, yeah, but Canada, I hope, does well. I really want her to do very well. Let's move on to Argentina. So, Argentina, I have to special mention here, one of the worst national costume contest participants. And again, this is my opinion. You don't have to agree. But when you go on stage and you're simply wearing, in this case, a soccer uniform and have a soccer ball with you, that is not imaginative. I mean, that makes the sari look exciting from Miss India. Yeah, it was to me completely lazy. And does anyone know who picks these contests? I mean, these costumes. If the contestant picks it, that's on her. If somebody else picks it, that's on them. But that was so unimpressive. I was like, are you kidding me? That you would go on stage and that be your national? I mean, I know soccer/football is very important in that country and multiple other countries. But that doesn't mean you have to wear a soccer uniform on stage as your, I mean, no. That is just boring to me. So, regardless, she's a strong candidate. I don't think the national costume makes a difference in the scoring anyway. So, at least last I heard. I could be wrong. I hope for her sake it doesn't. But anyway, she did well on everything else. So on regular categories of swimsuit and evening gown in the preliminary, she got a 10 as usual in this group. So she is a very strong candidate. We'll see what happens with her. Moving on to Australia. So Miss Australia, again, very different this year. There's a lot of very different women. It's another really strong group. They've had a lot longer to prepare, by the way, because it's been since like what, November or December of 2019 since there was a Miss Universe pageant. So we're talking a year and a half. So Zosie, the current winner, has had an extremely long reign, and I don't think she's minded, but she's going to be giving that crown up tomorrow night. Australia will be in the top 10, I believe, and should be very different, very unique, and just a really great. I heard a lot of these were announced as models. I don't remember if she was one of them, but she could have been. So I really like her. And then moving on to Brazil. Brazil was stunning. That dark hair, and I think she was wearing it really pressed down, sort of, and maybe with the part in the middle. So it just looked really good on her, and she's very confident and presents herself extremely well. So Brazil is definitely in there as well. And then we move on to Colombia. Now, Colombia got so much wonderful feedback from the audience and was constantly getting cheers. And, there wasn't a huge audience due to COVID anyway in the preliminaries. I mean, there's a lot of empty seats in the front in this auditorium or whatever the place exactly is in that hotel. Banquet hall is probably what it is. But she got, I think, more praise than anyone in cheers. So Colombia, as usual, to me, will do well. She's, again, a strong candidate. I don't think they ever send not strong candidates, but some are better than others. And then someone who doesn't always make it into the top 15 or so is Miss Peru. Now, Miss Peru is just great this year. She, from the beginning, impressed me, and I had her on my original list right here, and she is still on that list on the back. So once they go on the back, that means that's the final list. And then I bring them over here and do the 10s, the 9.5s, and the 9s. So Miss Peru, I think, will do very well this year. I'm not sure where, though. I mean, it might be top 10, but maybe not top 5. We'll see. Depends how she does and how other people do. It's really, it's such a hard thing to judge when you haven't seen the final show yet. So I try not to project that when I'm not sure until I see that. And then what I do is I will put comments, updated comments, in the comment section of this video during the pageant. So Miss Philippines, let's move on to Miss Philippines, a favorite of so many. And the Filipino people are amazing pageant fans. I really am amazed when I see their dedication and their love for their candidates, and mostly support for their candidates. Now, I hear Miss Philippines had a little mishap, or not really a mishap, but something that wasn't quite planned in the national costume contest, in that she had her beautiful costume and she was supposed to have a headdress, but it wasn't working. She couldn't keep it on right, and it could have injured her, is what I heard. So she chose not to wear it. And she's definitely gotten some flack for that. I do think, honestly, seeing both versions, it would have looked a lot better and more complete with that on. But if it was going to be a not safe situation, then of course I don't think she should have worn it. And that's what she chose to do, and I respect that. But regardless of that, she did very well in both categories, so she is definitely in my top 10. We'll see if she makes it into the top 5, but I don't know yet. I'm hoping, but we'll see. Miss Puerto Rico, I had Miss Puerto Rico on my list. I took her off based on some early things I saw, video-wise and picture-wise. And then I watched the preliminaries, and she got right back on here because she was so strong in the preliminaries. She did well in both swimsuit and evening gown, and I was just blown away by her. So she's possible top 5. Miss South Africa. Now, of course, we all know that 2 of the last 3 pageants for Miss Universe have been won by Miss South Africa. So it would be a really stunning thing for them to repeat again this year. And they have a chance with this candidate because, unlike the one 2 years ago who I wasn't as fond of, this one I really think, kind of like Puerto Rico, blew me away. So I know that she is just able to basically model and work the runway amazingly. And I think she's extremely strong. So I am saying she will probably be in the top 5, I believe. Now, I don't know, by the way, if they're going to go to a top 3. I don't think so. I think they're just going to do the top 5 and then eventually pick the winner after the question or questions. I've heard there's going to be one question and one final statement. I'd rather there be 2 questions, honestly, but that's me. And then we come to the last 3, Miss Thailand. Now, Thailand is usually always strong, like Philippines, and I think this year is no exception. Um, I kind of did, I have to say, I went back and forth on her, kind of like Puerto Rico, where I had her on here. Let me just double check. And then some things made me question that. And again, the preliminaries took the questions away. So she is in that top 16 and potentially top 10. And then we move to Venezuela. I think Venezuela will get into the top 16, but I don't think she's as strong as some of these other women. So I don't think she will make most likely the top 5. We'll see. But, she to me is the one on this list of perfect 10s that barely made it. Barely made it. But she did, so she's on here. I think it was just like her evening gown presentation. She seems too practiced. She seems too rehearsed and not natural feeling. You need to make it, no matter how practiced and rehearsed it is, because it needs a lot of rehearsal sometimes, it needs to feel natural. And you need to be presenting an air of confidence, but not cockiness. I took one candidate off for that very reason, because she was being over dramatic, ridiculous, and so I took her off of the top 16, or actually top 21. She's not on here at all. And so, and she originally was. So she's one of the ones that I crossed out on this list. There's about 6. And hers was for the only, I think, the only one that was for that reason was, okay, she presented okay, but she acted kind of foolish to me. She acted way over dramatic and silly almost. So I took her off. And then the last one is Miss USA. Now, I wasn't impressed with Miss USA in the beginning of my research for Miss Universe. There were just some things about her I was like, I'm underwhelmed. She did do great in the Miss USA. That's obviously why she won. But I just think that Miss USA, what's her name? Asia? I think it's Asia. It's like Aysa, I believe. But anyway, she just was not impressing me in the lead up to the pageant. But since the pageant started, especially these last 2 nights, she really has. So yes, I do think she'll make it into the top 21. But after that, I don't know. I think she has a lot of strong competition, so I don't anticipate her making it into the top 5. So, who do I think would be the top 5? Let's talk about that briefly as we wrap up. So, first of all, I would say Miss Canada. So, Miss Canada impresses me so much, so I have to put her in there. Also, Miss South Africa that I mentioned earlier, same thing. She impresses me immensely. So that's 2 of the 5 spots that I believe will be there. Now, we'll see if I'm right. Then we have, like I said, Albania, Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Bahamas, Colombia. Colombia should be there, so I'm going to put that one in, or put her in. Great Britain, Jamaica, Peru, Philippines. Put Philippines in. Philippines should make the top 5, but we'll see. It's going to come down to, I have to be honest and say I do not think Rabia is as strong as some of the other recent candidates, but she is giving her best effort, and she's got a lot of passion. And I think it's certainly possible, but it's on her, just like everybody else, to make it. So that's 4, and then we come down to who would be number 5. Puerto Rico, Peru, Thailand, Brazil. Right now I lean towards Brazil. So that's what I'm going to say, is I think Miss Brazil would be the most likely, but it could be Peru. Could be Puerto Rico. I don't feel as strongly about Thailand or Venezuela or USA. So I would say one of those, and Australia could be in there too. So I'm going to go with Brazil. So right now my predicted top 5 is Brazil, Canada, Colombia, Philippines, and South Africa. So let's see how I do. And then, like I said, I'll be watching other things in between now and tomorrow night. And I will be making comments during the pageant. So stay tuned, and I will be picking a winner during it and, of course, before it's announced. So everybody enjoy it, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you, and goodbye.